Okay. When do we go? Am I told when to start here?
I do my laptop. Whenever they pull you up inside of it.
I think I'm on now. Okay, I guess I'm live now. Hi, sorry, I'm Chilton Leading with Saunders County Sheriff's Department. I'm a part-timer here. I retired from Lincoln a couple of years back, and there, well, once I retired and started working out here part-time, I developed a thing called a police club, and the idea is community outreach with kids, and I thought it was an important thing to do because most kids who interact with us, just by the nature of work, it's usually a bad day for them. Something bad, they're either a victim or a suspect or someone in the house, something bad's happening there. We don't just show up to say, and unfortunately, we don't show up to just say, hey, hope you're having a swell day. So try to change that a little bit and let them get to know police officers in a non-enforcement capacity. And I do a thing called Police Club here in the Sarasco and Saunders County where we get together and eat some pizza and do some fun police stuff. Anything from fingerprinting to radar or whatever, and the kids seem to enjoy it. So that's all I have for my intro.
My name's Stanford Bradley Jr. I work at the Clyde Malone Community Center as the Associate Director of Team Programming, as well as Cedars. And so apart at the Malone, we kind of have a take pause and we have a 1.0 and a 2.0 version. I do the 2.0. So part of mine is to learn effective ways to help kids interact with police and build those positive relationships. Because, we learned over time that not all kids know, the laws and the rights and how to have those interactions. And so one thing I wanted to do with my part of the program was to focus on the age group, the middle and high school age group, and kind of get them to learn the right ways to do those. So that way we can eliminate kind of all the tension that could be between there and help build a positive relationship so everybody feels comfortable interacting with each other.
Hi, I'm Chastity Jackson Goodwin, and I'm with Lincoln Police Department. I've been with LPD for 19 years, currently work in the Education Personnel Unit, and I will rotate back to patrol here in January. I've been a part of the Take Pause program as well for the last couple of years. Prior to that, with Shields Unite, which are pretty much similar, they're pretty similar programs in interacting with the youth. It's been a very rewarding opportunity to be able to take part in. For one, Stanford was one of my middle school students when I was a school resource officer. And so to be able to work with him and in the capacity that he's in as a leader for the youth is a really good thing also, because I think it just shows the growth in how relationships are built through the schools and into the community and beyond that. So I just want to say thank you, Stanford, for what you do to continue to build those positive relationships with the police department as well as Ishmael and, with everyone who's involved here as far as what we do for the youth. Because if without that component, it really disregards what our mission is as police and the community as well in bridging that gap. We both need each other to be able to live and work and together in a community. So it's been just a rewarding experience to be able to also work with the kids not in uniform. I think that makes a really big difference to break down those barriers as well. I think sometimes for youth, it can be a little intimidating to them to be able to approach police. They may see them in schools, but they might not have a lot of interaction with them, but outside of school to be able to interact and kind of forget that they're hanging out with police, but also to be reminded and have the discussions, those important discussions with each other about the things that are happening in society with police and community. So I think it's a really good thing to be a part of. So thank you.
I'll go next. My name is Tommy Trotter. I'm a sergeant with the Sheriff's Office here in Lincoln for Lancaster County. Throughout my career, I've worked in many different roles, but I've been a supervisor for several years. And so back in 2015, late 2015, we started to see some of the things that were happening nationwide between the media and the public, where we're getting a bad reputation, deserve it or not. And we kind of wanted to get ahead of that and change some attitudes, not just with the public, but also maybe that our deputies had as well. So we started to work with County Human Services and figure out how we could reach out to the community and work with youth. So what we did was we began a relationship with Cedars Youth Services, which they have a long time commitment to our town and our county. They've been around for 70 some years, and they've had a long commitment with law enforcement as well. In fact, one of the founders of Cedars was the first female Lincoln police officer back in the 40s. And back then, she was working primarily with women and children, and they've just grown on from there, but they've maintained that relationship. So we knew it was going to be a good agency to work with. So what we did was I handpicked about 5 deputies that was a mix of men, women of all ages. And we met with Cedars and decided that we were going to work with their children that are in the juvenile justice program. They've been in some kind of trouble, or they're on probation or something like that, where they've got some interaction with the juvenile justice program. And we wanted to meet with the kids and do 2 things. Number one, we wanted to give them an opportunity to meet deputies who are not in uniform, who are just normal people. And we were going to meet once or twice a month. And what we were going to do was we would do fun activities, let them know that we're all just people. But the other thing is we wanted to give them an opportunity to do community service projects where they could apply those hours to their probation or whatever. So we've been meeting twice a month, with the exception of this year due to the COVID pandemic. And it really opened our eyes, not just to the children in our community and maybe some of the attitudes that they have. And maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. We've built some good relationships with a lot of these kids, and I've got to know several of them over the years. But the children come and go as they get off their probation, they move out. We get new kids all the time. And so we're able to build new relationships. But we have a lot of kids who they want to keep taking part even after their commitment is over, because they've enjoyed doing the things we've done, whether it's throwing a pizza party or going out to eat, or just even doing the community service projects. We've cleaned up parks, and we've did some work at the zoo. We've done a lot of things like that gives them that sense of pride. And but the other thing that we learned was, for the deputies involved in the program, that it also gave them a different attitude of the children that they were policing in real life. And we got to know them, and not as, these aren't the troubled kids, these are just regular kids who happen to make a poor choice. And so it kind of worked both ways. And that was an unforeseen advantage that it's given us. Another thing was, our deputies are responsible for securing the Hall of Justice. So we have deputies who work in all of the courts, including the juvenile courts. And so some of the kids that they've worked with, the deputies have worked with these children at Cedars, at the 50 Fun Club is what we call it. They see them later on when they're in uniform and in the courthouse, and they right away, they spark up that conversation, and it's just like, I've known this guy for a long time. So it's one of those things that was a partnership that is ongoing, and it's evolving every day, every time we meet. And we definitely want to keep it going.
Awesome. All right. I'm Ishmael Youssef of Valenti, the first. I am the Director of Community Engagement and Team Programming here at the Malone Center. And I have had the pleasure to, re-ramp that Shield Unite and start it here at the Malone Center last year. with the Take Pause, kind of the rebrand and some of the new mission. And it's been a delight to see the interaction between police and teenagers. And it is, I think, very helpful for these two groups of people to get together when it's not a strenuous and stressful time. I run other programs here at the Malone with teens, and a lot of times what I was hearing was the sentiment from the teens was that when they're around police officers, sometimes in public, they feel like they're being profiled. They feel like they're being treated unfairly. And I would relate to them because I know I've gone through those same experiences. Even just going to the courthouse to do paperwork, I feel like sheriffs have treated me in ways where it made me frustrated leaving because they made me feel so inhumane. And so I would feel for these teens when they were telling me this. And so when I had the chance to start Take Pause here and get these teens and police officers, and we hope to add sheriffs to that, I think that'd be really great. But we work with LPD right now. And it was such a great opportunity because when the kids would get together with the police officers during these fun activities, whether it's at the pumpkin patch or it was at like urban air or escape room, they would have so much fun. They'd work together and they'd be smiling, laughing, and it would almost be like they would forget about the bad experience that they had because of these awesome experiences. And then when we were getting to hear both ways from how police officers were relating to the teens and we're talking about the teens, I just was tremendously honored to be a part of that relationship building. And so I'm excited that is now in its second year, and we haven't let COVID deter us. We're out here following protocol and able to hang out with the kids. And like I said, we're just at the pumpkin patch, and I'm super excited for our 2.0 with Stanford Junior on here has just amazing ideas. So I'm super excited we're able to branch this out and bring it to more teens and to keep making the impacts. And I just can't thank and stress enough I think the leadership that came from LPD with Chastity Jackson Goodwin, and then with the chief and captains as well, being so willing to say, you know, we can even do better, and we can have better relationships, and we can have more learning opportunities. And so it's just been a delight. And I think it's really a model that we can share. And I can't wait to talk about it a little bit later with the short presentation, but share and then also spread around the nation so we can have better relations all around this great nation. Are we looking for some questions here first before we go on to maybe some of these strategies and things that our programs kind of go into?
Ask Amber here. What do we,
It doesn't look like
no questions so far. So
do you want to start, John?
sure, I guess we'll start over and I'll tell you about some of the stuff that I do until questions start rolling in. So, like I said, I kind of started this thing while in Lincoln because I saw one school particularly, and I'm going to name these schools because it might help identify the kids. But you would go, and a lot of these kids were immigrants, you know, because of the Gulf War and Iraq and Iran and all that. She would go into this one particular school, and I know that Chaz has been there. Kids wouldn't make eye contact with. They would turn away. They were clearly afraid of us. So I said, "We got to do something to change this." And so we just started real simple, just going into classrooms and sitting down and reading to them. We're doing what I call a tour of the cruiser, which everybody loves. You get out and let the kids get in the car, and we're talking, you know, kindergarten, first, second, third grade, and they get in there, and the teacher's always worried that they might break something. I said, "Oh no, I've tried. You can't break nothing in these." So you get in there and turn the lights and sirens on and get on the PA and yell into it, and you know, they love that. So, and I guess as we started doing this, the older kids would kind of come around too. And there's, no matter what age group, there's something for them to do. That's why I never put any age, well, I initially put an age restriction on who could come to our meetings. I thought maybe 6th grade and up, they get it, these other kids won't. Well, it turns out the 6th graders oftentimes, or 7th graders, were babysitting the 5-year-old at home, 6-year-old. So we didn't have great attendance. But then after I said, just the kids of all ages, and we found something for them to do, either tour the cruiser or do plaster casts from a footprint or something, or process prints, or run a handheld radar, which all of that to the average cop is boring stuff and it's work and you don't want to do. But kids love that stuff. And, and we're just hanging out with, get as many police as you can there. And unfortunately, it's hard to get a lot of cops there, especially in these small agencies and even in the bigger agencies, because they're busy with calls for service. So, and that's just some of the stuff we would do. But I guess my point was try to reach out to kids of all ages. And Soresco's a town. I did it there once, a police club meeting, a town of 900, and we had over 66 kids. So we had about 7% of the population there, which is pretty good. And we do it here in Wahoo as well. And we involve other agencies because, like, we have very few resources as far as canine units and air squads and stuff like that. So we'll bring in game and parks, and they'll do what they call the dead petting zoo, and let the kids, actually see a bunch of different pelts and stuff like that. But police of all kind, and I think it's important to expose the kids to just get to know each other. Like everybody here has been saying, that's important. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I'm kind of waiting for a question. So anyone else want to jump in and say some of the stuff you do during a meeting? Feel free.
Something that stuck out with me with interacting with the students, as far as approachability, that was something that they had brought to our attention. They said, well, when you guys are in uniform, you have your arms crossed, or, you're holding on to your uniform, or you have your hands on your gun belt. And it just seems like really scary for us to come and talk to you. And that's something that we as police officers, we don't sometimes realize how that might come across. And having that, the conversation with them to say, oh my gosh, no, we're just trying to get comfortable. We don't have anywhere to, relax our hands. And so certain places where we're relaxing that's just comfortable for us because we have all of this equipment on. And so we aren't meaning to appear as if we're non-approachable. We want you to come talk to us. And, and then just having that dialogue with the students, and they're like, oh, or, when it's cold, we don't have room to put our hands in our pockets and things like that. So just for that type of conversation, for them to go, oh, we just thought you all are just ready to, spring into action, or like something bad is going to happen. It's like, no, we're just comfortable. We don't have. So for them to understand, and also for us to understand that, if we're in that type of setting, to maybe try to place our hands somewhere different, so that way it doesn't come across as that. So having those types of conversations, and also to explain to them also, like for me, our experiences as citizens and police contact as well. So like for me, I share with them my experiences before I was a police officer that were not positive experiences. So for them to, to show that empathy of, I understand what you feel and how you felt when you were contacted by police and you felt like you weren't treated fairly. I know what that feels like. I didn't like how that felt. And also to let them know that that's one reason why I decided to actually pursue this profession, because it was something that I had wanted to do from when I was their age. We're talking middle school, high school, but then some of the things were going on that are happening now in our society with bad police community relations. And so that was something that was constantly a mental battle for me. Like, is this something that I really want to pursue when I'm looking on TV and I'm seeing all of these bad things happen? But I explained to them that that's still something that I wanted to do. And so it was a matter of, do I let the media and let the TV just dictate what the perception is, that this is the only thing that's going on, when I knew that really wasn't true, because there were police officers that I had known. I mean, I knew they weren't like that. So I knew that they all couldn't be like that, right? I couldn't just base my experiences to say, yep, that's how they all are. And they're all just terrible. I knew realistically that wasn't the case, even though I had my own, for moments when bad things would happen, I wasn't happy with police. I went through a phase where I didn't trust, I didn't particularly care for police. But I had to go out of my comfort zone to introduce and engage myself with police, even if it was uncomfortable for me, to have that interaction so that I could be reminded, okay, yeah, this is, there are really good police officers out there. And just engaging in conversations and asking them about their job and what they do and why they do it. So it was something that, again, that I had to take my own, kind of check my own biases, because we all have those. And so that was a moment for me to heal myself and become more comfortable, and like I said, interacting with them. It also helped when I worked at the jail, because I would see more police officers come in and be able to have an opportunity to ask them about their job and things like that. So now as a police officer, when I do go out and I talk to kids, those are things that I can share with them, to again, let them know, hey, I understand what you're going through, and this is why we do what we do. So we can try to build that gap, bridge it, so that way it's more comfortable for us to work together, to plant trees together. That was a really cool thing that we did with the Malone with Take Pause program. We planted trees at the Malone and throughout the community, and that's something that will be ongoing. And we planted a tree in remembrance of our fallen officer, and so that's all a part of healing, and something that they'll be able to show their kids when they're adults. This is what I did with the police. We can grow together and actually do positive things together. And that's something that they can share with their peers as well. Just of the good things that we try to do together and working as a community.
Definitely. To piggyback off of Officer Jackson Goodwin, we in the Take Pause program, I see a couple of the questions, and I'll kind of answer them as they relate to Take Pause 1.0. We call the meetings Take Pause, and when we get together with those meetings, it is very open in the dialogue that we're able to have. Just like Officer Jackson Goodwin was saying, it's a great opportunity for these questions to be asked and to be honest and to really be able to be very, very just real. And it's really cool because we do these conversations after we hang out and have all this fun. So after we have all this fun and everybody's like basically on the same team in some way or another form, then those questions are really, I think, easily able to be attacked in a different way, because everybody's guard is a little bit down and everybody has a little bit of rapport that's made now. And then I would say as well, when the Take Pause program was beginning, it didn't begin just from nothing, poof, out of thin air. There is strong relationships already in place between the Malone Center, myself, and Officer Jackson Goodwin, and Chief Blindmeister, and Officer Luke Bonkowitz, and Captain Stille. I mean, the list goes on and on because of how much work that we've been able to put, Jeff Sorensen, because all the work that we've been able to put in with each other to make this community better. So then when we have ideas to do something, then it's like, oh yeah, this makes sense. We can get it done. And there's no I think there's little yellow tape or red tape that can get between the idea and the end result because of the relationships. And then also, I think that with the civil unrest and what a just community looks like, I love that you guys are bringing that up in some of your meetings. And again, we're able to be really open and these youth tell stories of how their parents were abused or how they felt abused or how they really don't like police because of a certain situation. And then police are able to really be there and be representatives for their brothers and sisters on the force and say, well, yeah, even though there have been wrongs done, we're sorry for those, but there are so many good things, and we're here to do those good things, and we're here for you, and we want y'all to be police officers to do good things as well. But we definitely are able to get into those what we call harder questions, and then we the group we work with 13 to 18-year-olds, and it fluctuates in numbers. Sometimes we'll have a number which I like around 15 to 20 because it gives a really good, I think, opportunity for some of these great relationships to happen, and so you get some more one-on-one time. But we'll have, as the program has gained in popularity, when we go and do some things like bowling or some things like urban air or something, we can have 30 kids there, 35 kids there because they really want to take part in what's happening. And I wanted to share, just so it kind of can get a visual of the type of things that we're doing, what we're talking about. I have about a 3-minute video of some of our Take Pause activities that I can share as well. I'm going to share my screen here real quick, use the sound, and then we will do share here.
Creating relationships.
Achieving awareness.
Achieving understanding.
Between police officers
And teenagers.
And are they having positive or negative interactions? So what are we trying to do today? Show them they can have positive interactions.
I don't like the cops that are just blatantly racist.
Have you had experiences with you feel like blatant racism from cops?
And it was just really bad. Right. It was somebody.
Okay, hold on. I'm coming, Dylan. I feel you coming.
Disrespect.
It's disrespect.
It happened to other people too. Like, it's just the way they talk to us and how they treat us from treating other people. And that's why I low-key swear don't like cops.
So I went through a phase of, no, I don't want to be a part of that. Why would I want to be a part of an organization that is harassing me for no reason? Like, all of the kind of hate that I had built up, I was kind of like you, like it was something I knew I wanted to do, and so I would just, if I would see a police officer, I'd say, hey, how's it going? How's your day? Because I knew good ones. I didn't want to dislike them all. And then I kind of started that on my own because again, this was something I wanted to do, and I didn't want to regret not following my dream because of poison that had been kind of dropped on me.
For a phone, us 4 in the ball pit, and so many of you just jumped in without us even asking to help us find it, and we did.
We found that phone, didn't we?
Yeah, that thing was lost.
and there's some other things. But take pause again here. Let me stop sharing. I'll talk about a little bit of this here if I can figure out how to do that. Oh. See here, stop sharing. All right. So another couple of things about take pause that you saw. That was just one time that we were at Urban Air, but at the end when we're talking and we're eating and we're together, these conversations, they don't only just happen as a group, but then they happen naturally together. So like when we'll go bowling and then maybe out to eat at Valentino's, a buffet or something. And then we don't have to tell the police officers and the youth to sit together. After a while, they all just kind of mold together and start having these conversations and having all this fun. And so it's a great mix of the structured activity where they get to be on teams and work with each other. And we always have a theme and talk about the theme, but then also just a real relationship building. So then these teams, they go back to their friends and they say, yeah, hey, well, the things that you may be seeing or hearing all the time that's negative, these aren't all the way true. You know, we are hanging out with some really awesome people and making some really great connections. And they tell their friends. And then I think even as important, or maybe more importantly, for then those police officers, especially some of the newer ones, they get to go back and talk and have these experiences that these kids are really awesome. They're really positive, bright, promising youth. And so then the next time that they're on the job, when they come across and maybe a youth that looks like one of those that they had a connection with, they're not as quick to do something that may be detrimental, or we may not have a tragedy here. And I think those are some of those really genuine things that are able to happen through the program that we're doing 2 times a month, because we're having genuine fun, but also getting to what they say, the meat of the problem. That's, I think, a lack of relationships.
I would totally like to go off of what Ishmael said. We've built so many relationships over the years with the children that we've been involved with, kind of the same ages that your Take Pause group, our 5-0 Fun Club with Cedars. We've picked the 13 to 17, 18 years old, the ones that are most at risk. Either they're at a turning point where they're either going to, take what they've done and try to make themselves better. Or some of them, I've had at least one kid who I built a good relationship with him. He reached out to me a couple times after he'd left the program, but he couldn't get out of that cycle, and he's in prison now. And that was, I don't look at it as a failure. It's just, there's so many children that we interact with that we can build relationships with. And exactly what Ishmael said, we work with them to make them see that we're just normal people. And one of the things that I think has really opened it up is we are off duty. And one of the questions asked about that, how we interact with these kids when we're off duty. Well, we're never in uniform when we go to these things. We want them to see us as normal people. But one of the things is, I think I've got 7 deputies plus myself that are involved in my group. And I think all but 2 of us, we have extensive tattoos, and the kids love that stuff, because then they see us as, oh, my brother's got a tattoo, or, somebody they know has a tattoo. And it gives you one more conversation that we can have where they look at us and say, oh, you're not just a cop in a uniform, you're a real person. And that's been one of those things that has opened it up. But yeah, all the deputies that we go and do these things with, they're always off duty, never in uniform. And we do kind of the same things that the Take Pause program does, where we'll go to Urban Air, Defy Gravity. We took kids out to a horse corral and had them ride horses. Some of them never seen a horse in real life before. And that was very eye-opening for a lot of these kids who lived in an urban environment all their lives. We took them fishing. Some were really good at it. Some, it was their first time, but it was one of those things that it's eye-opening to get them out of their element to see what other people do. And, but then we mix in there the community service programs. So, we've done things, like I said earlier, cleaning up the zoo or picking up trash on the roadside. We cleaned up trash at Holmes Lake one time. But it seems like when we really wanted to join together, we have competitions. So we'll have one deputy go with a group of kids, and we'll have 4 or 5 groups. The competitions where they really, really break loose, because they don't want to be the ones losing. So they all work together. One of the best ones, I think, we went to escape room a couple times. And when you're in the escape room, there's only 1 or 2 deputies with you, and it's other kids. And you've got to get out of there before the other groups do. And so everybody works together. Even the kids who are a little bit reluctant at first, by the end of that evening, they've opened up and they're working about it, and they're telling everybody they know about this fun they had at the escape room. So it's just a really fun thing, and we're building those relationships. And like I said earlier, some of these kids, they're in there for a year or two, and then they're gone, but we always see them later on. We'll see them in the courthouse, we'll see them on the street, and they remember that stuff, and they'll tell their friends, and really want to keep this going. So we probably should answer some of these other questions. Talking about how we discuss some of the issues that we've seen in the media with the children. You know, I find that you just got to be honest with them and just tell them what your opinion is. You know, when the George Floyd thing happened, that really bothered me. And I told the kids exactly what my opinion was, that these guys need to go to prison. And that doesn't happen here. And we'd never want that to happen here. But the police here don't do those kind of things. And you hope it never happens. But you just have to have honest conversations and tell them exactly how you feel. We're not trying to cover anything up for anybody. I don't care who they are.
Yeah, I love the honesty that was just mentioned there. And I think that's definitely the way. And I think another thing that we talk about the media is, it was one of our questions at our last campfire. And, you know, we said, can you give us an example of a positive that you think about police from the media and a negative that you think about police from the media? And when they talk about it, they were having, well, then after that question, we said, okay, now give us a positive in real life and a negative in real life. And they had many more negatives from the media than they did from real life, and many more positives in real life than they did from the media, that they felt like. And that was, they said, a part of the program, because they get to have so many positive experiences. But I think that being honest and saying that, you know, we really have to look at our own experiences and the experiences of people that we actually know, instead of just what we see on TV. And I think that really, just to add to it, not only that honesty, but to say, what are your experiences that you have, instead of just going off of what you're seeing in that box there.
Another question just popped up. It said, how are these activities funded? At the sheriff's office, our group specifically is funded through Lancaster County Human Services. They get grants from other places as well, but the Human Services funds the sheriff's office, and they also fund Cedars with equal matching grants. And every year we have to go back and apply for them, and we have to get permission from the county board. But that's how our group is funded.
How ours is funded is largely through donations from local businesses and individuals. Also, we've had a couple of fundraisers, like we had, you know, hot dog cookout and stuff like that here at the sheriff's department. Also, we with some funds from that, we were able to get some some merch. And here's one of our hats, police club hat. And we give these. I mean, we don't sell them to anybody. To get one, you got to be a kid and show up, and we give you this stuff. And one of our logos is the police club logo there. For lack of a better thing, and I'm not trying to make this a big police recruitment thing. It's just, you know, hang out with kids and they get some cool hats and stuff like that. And I'm glad to hear we're all saying the same thing, and we're all kind of going about it in a little different way. But and to go off of what Tom and Ishmael said, you know, we don't always do things right, but even the days that we do everything right, there's plenty of reason not to like us. Like if we've all done a death notification, everyone with a badge has, where you show up and tell somebody their dad or mom ain't coming home. And sometimes kids will hate you for that, and I don't blame them. I would too. So we gotta take that in consideration as well. But so it makes our jobs extra hard when we get cops out there doing bad stuff, Because even when we do everything right, it's easy not to like us. So. Oh, another thing I do for community outreach, maybe off the topic, and maybe I'm bouncing around, but Super C, a gas station here in our town, puts these out. And it was my idea to call them an ice cream ticket. And it had to be a ticket because you pull a kid over and reward them for doing something good. And so kids are bragging, hey, I got a ticket from the police. So, and if you see them, being safe or wearing a helmet when they're riding bikes, or just basically not being a jerk, you go up and give them a ticket. And even the kids that are being a little naughty, you give them one too. And turn it into a positive thing. They get some, and I go through, in this little community, I go through about 350 of those a summer. So, and it's funded by Super C will pay for all that. The banks provide us with pizza and pop and stuff like that. So, and I've been prompted by Aaron to talk about when we do have our police club meetings, the kids are on diversion and probation. I've actually come out and work these things with us. They're, part of my help. The kids are in their teens or late teens, and a couple of those guys have responded that they'd never liked police at all until they got to hang out with me for a day or two. Not necessarily me, but just the police I had working with us, and it's not for every cop out there, because a lot of them just are not officer friendly, as they say, or whatever. It's just or maybe they're just not good with crowds. I don't know, but it's good to pick the right guys. Someone like Chastity, perfect personality for that sort of thing. And Tom, I'm glad we got guys like that behind a badge.
What are some of the activities that were done to be applied to their community service hours?
What were some of the activities that were done to be applied to their community service hours was a question.
I can answer that. Children at our group, I think we talked about it a little bit. We did a lot of garbage pickup. We'd go down the bike trail on Highway 2. We worked with the county or the city Parks and Rec to get permission to do that. And we would log all those hours for the children. We cleaned up Holmes Lake Park. We've also done things such as during the Christmas time, we would make Christmas cards for some of the retirement villages around Lincoln, and we deliver those. We potted plants for Easter one year and delivered those to some of the retirement homes. We've done just a lot of different things, and so good for the ones that are involved in juvenile justice so that they can apply those hours back towards what they're required to do by the court. So we try to involve a little bit of everything. So it's community service plus we've been doing the fun stuff and the pizza parties and things that Ishmael talked about. We do those exact same things. During the COVID issue, ever since March or April when things started getting locked down, our group has been on hiatus, and we've been trying to work with Cedars to come up with some better ideas on how we could do this either virtually or some other way. And it's really put a damper on our activities with Cedars, but our agency is not very large, and we really can't afford a lot of deputies to be getting sick and be in quarantine for 14 days. So it's kind of really put a damper on it. So we're working. I had a meeting with Jim Ballou and some other people at Cedars last week, and we're hoping to get together pretty soon to keep that going. To kind of talk about a little bit of what Chilton said as well. When we work with children out in the field, sometimes they won't have a positive relationship or a positive experience with police. And it's usually because we're going into their houses and we're telling them that their parents aren't coming home, like he said, or we're working a child abuse case, or we're working a domestic violence case. And one of the things I've always told the deputies that have worked for me over the years is if you research some of the people that you're arresting for child abuse or for domestic violence specifically, they were the victims of those same things back when they were children. And it's a cycle that keeps going on. And that's what we're hoping to do, is try to break that cycle and creating some other relationships and some giving some kids some ideas that there are other avenues or other things, and the police are here to help you. And we want to break those cycles. It's very important.
Definitely. And I see the question about the distinguishing between reality and watching TV and things as well. And again, just the honest questions and the honest discussion. But then I think also when you get these youth around police officers where they can actually interact, then I think that breaks that down immediately right away just by having that interaction. It really brings it to like, oh, this is reality. It isn't all just run after them and shoot and just all the things that you see. I think every time you see a police officer on TV, usually it's literally a gun chase or a shoot 'em up thing where like I see police with guns that don't even exist on TV, right? And so, but when they get to actually get in front of each other and have those real talks and do those real things and then have fun and laugh together, it automatically shuts that down, I think, and brings the real reality to it. But then again, and it's important again, because sometimes it's not just, of course, from reality TV. I mean, we have kids tell these stories about their experiences that they've had with police that sound like something out of a TV or out of a movie, but it was really an experience that maybe happened with their parents, or a time that police broke in the door on their house or something like that. For whatever reason it was, to them, like has been said here, it was very traumatic. So even if it was something that was for the safety of them or the community, it was super traumatic to them, and it's always whoever broke in was at fault or was the bad person. And so just I think more police officers are willing to take part in programs like this and in activities and events like these, it brings the probability that that not only the youth but that police officers get to have such a better relationship and perception of each other, just doing this more and more. So every time we get together, I think it helps break those stereotypes and break those fallacies between real life and the silver screen.
I think it's important also for them to understand that the reality is, for some of us police officers, we've been the victims of some of the same things as they have been in. So we are still human. We have chosen a profession that is to serve the community, but there are a lot of police officers that have been victims of some pretty bad crimes, and families that have suffered from domestic violence, addiction issues, mental health issues. And so that's important for them too, to realize, oh, wow, like you had a mother or father that had domestic violence, or you've been a victim of an assault, because we have officers here that have actually been robbed at gunpoint. There's an officer here that was robbed at gunpoint before becoming a police officer, which made him want to become a police officer. So for them to go, whoa, wow, like that happened to you and you still wanted to choose this profession, or whatever the issue may be, for them to know that we've lived life too, and we've been through some hard times, and so it makes us more relatable to them as well, for them to say, oh, well, okay, I guess that makes sense. You understand where I'm coming from. That relatability and that representation also, that if they can do this, and then maybe I can too, or maybe I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And I think Tommy brought up or Chilton, one of them, as far as the police recruiting. Now, we would love for them to become police officers, but at the same time, it's not just, hey, we're just hanging out with you so you can be police officers. We want you to be whatever it is that your heart desires, right? Whatever goals that it is that you want to achieve, don't let anybody tell you that it's not for you. If that's something that you want to do, then go for it. I like to tell kids, at the end of the day, your name's going to be on the check. And so no matter what it is, because being a police officer, sometimes it's hard I know even for me, when I wanted to become a police officer and actually started to pursue it, people would say, like, why would you want to do that? Like, you're gonna, you're gonna work for the police, and you're a Black female. Why would you want to, go against your community, and all of these other outside things that come, the negativity. And it's like, this is my life, is my goals and dreams of what I want to do. And so again, I don't want to live with any regret. Let me do what I need to do. You can do what you want to do, and whatever it is that you want to do, you be happy with that. You be happy with the why and what you're doing. And as long as you're proud of why, of the job that you're doing, and your mission for why you're doing that, just go do whatever it is that makes you happy. And you can inspire someone else to do that. It doesn't have to be police, but it'd be great, but it doesn't have to be.
I know for me personally, being somebody that was in the group as when it first started as kind of a kid, and then being able to transition to helping facilitate the groups, it has opened my eyes a lot more to relationships with the police. So when I first started, I was somebody, I didn't want to be in the same room as them. I didn't want to have a conversation with them. I didn't feel comfortable being around them because of, past incidents in my life. And so being a part of, the Take Pause and the Shield Unite has made me build relationships with police. So when situations around the world happen, I still know personally good police that, I can feel more comfortable that, things are bad, but there are still good police, and that, I've built relationships with police who do a great job, and they're not the police that I see on TV. So I know for me, being able to see, that perspective and know them personally has helped influence, kind of how I interact with all police now.
I think one other thing really quick, that to go off Officer Jackson Goodwin as well, when she was talking about the honesty and telling the story that they've gone through those situations too. I remember one time when the police officer was talking to the kids about how, they had been scared, how they, had glass kind of raining down on them from, some of the things that were happening this summer, and looking out into a sea of people, and really how they were scared as well. And I think that brings, again, the humanism to it, right? Where, these people aren't just robots. They're not just, shields and a uniform. They're people, they're real people, and they have real emotions. So I just love when the honesty is able to be. And I've had kids start off like how Stanford was saying, how didn't want to start off being in the same room with police, but really, really now I've came around to look forward to these meetings with the police.
And others who are actively vocal.
Hey, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I'm sorry, did you heard somebody in the background here? Go ahead, Chess.
Oh, I saw something about 24 hours a day for a baking or spa day. That's my kind of get together. That is right down my alley. Leslie, I'm trying to see at the Youth Service Center. Let's chat. I think we could all use a baking and spa day, right? I think with everything that's going on, that's everybody working together to do something and make something taste good, and you can feel good. And what a great way to work together also. Yeah, I love that. Or any other suggestions, that you have. I think that's really great with the community service that you all are doing with the 5-0 Club. Tommy, I think that's awesome, because we get kids that call here. You must be building something next door. We get kids that call wanting to do some type of community service thing here, but we don't have that for them to do for age reasons and things just immediately through the police department. But I really like that we could be able to add something like with Take Pause that we could refer them to say, okay, if you come to Take Pause and we can do something like we did with the planting the trees and things like that. Just the community engagement type of activities. I think that's really cool that you all do that. That gives them an opportunity too, because that's what we do as police officers. We are community servants. And so to work with them to be able to get their school credit hours and work with the police and doing something with the police to help the community, I think that's awesome. I really like that.
Yeah, we wanted it to be definitely some place where they could go and do some actual work and get some pride in that work. And I can't take credit for a lot of those. They were ideas from my Cedars counterparts, which they've been doing that for a lot longer than I have, but we've done some really good things. So thank you for that. And going back through some of the other questions I was looking that we might have missed, Kenzie had asked, what is the name of your meetings? Yeah, we called it originally, we called it community policing. And that was really the only thing we could come up with was we had a community policing youth group. And so we still call it that in the background, but really we just call it by the name. It's the kids pick the name. It's the 5-0 Fun Club. 5-0 means police, and we're a club of people having fun. So that's what we decided to call it, but it's technically community policing.
Ours is much.
I think we talked about the age groups too. Sorry, Chilton. Just going through some of these other questions. 13 to 18 to 20, maybe on some of the outsides, and that's what we focus on. And the kids that are in our program, somebody else had asked about where we do this. Our program with Cedars is just here in Lincoln and Lancaster County. The Take Pause group, is it the same thing? Is it just Lincoln, Lancaster County? Yeah. And so Chilton would be the only one outside of Lancaster County. He works up in Saunders in the Wahoo area.
Really quick on the question with have you had a chance to teach the kids a safe way to demonstrate, advocate for community issues? Yes, definitely. With Take Pause, we've had a chance to do that on a couple of different levels. Last year, we actually had a great session on the national anthem, and we got to get some really great education about Francis Scott Key and the original poem and the racist beginnings of that poem. And we got to really understand from both sides on how some people have pride in it and why some people wouldn't want to have pride in it. And then that spilled over, of course, into this summer with the activism that has happened here. And so with the Hold Cops Accountable Agreement and the Trace activities here at the Malone, we've been able to get our teens and Take Pause teens involved. And so the Take Pause teams actually were part of some of the peaceful protests down at the state capitol, and even got to speak and talk about making change throughout these means of policy change and coming to the table together with avenues like Trace that was developed from the HCA. And so we've actually had two of the teen representatives as well make policy recommendations and community recommendations to both of those respective subcommittees, the policy subcommittee from Trace and the community subcommittee from Trace. So not only showing them how to peacefully, use their constitutional rights to protest, but also then how to follow up on that and create the actual policy change, or to create the actual change that they want to through means of either legislation or through, like I said, just influence with policy change. So we've had those chances, and we're excited to continue that by making a youth chapter on one of those subcommittees for the Trace Committee. And Stanford, with 2.0, I know that you have big plans for kind of that exactly with the law and some of that demonstrating. You want to go over that, some of that maybe?
Yeah, so the part of my 2.0, we want to find ways to be educational, where we want to teach the right ways to advocate for themselves, protest. We want them to know the right law and not the misconceptions. So, a lot of times growing up, you have family members who tell you something and you think it's law because that's your family member. So I've been able to sit down with a couple probation officers, some school officials, and we kind of put together a lot of scenarios and a lot of common things that we see kids don't understand, whether that's, the school rules and how much access the school has to like the background checks and to their lockers and kind of things like that. And also on the streets with teaching, what happens if you are caught, in the car with a friend that has a gun, what could be the outcome for you, and kind of just those scenarios that we see kids, not know could impact their life tremendously. And so we try to take a lot of those common things, build a game. We got a game called Kahoot that I'm actually going to start going into a couple schools next week. And with that will be a series of about 30 questions, not 30 questions, questions and scenarios. And it will teach kind of those misunderstood rules that kids kind of don't know the full, background to, and kind of teach kids the right way to advocate for themselves. And when there's protests going on, how can you use your voice effectively and not, misrepresent yourself with, kind of other people and things that are going on. And so that's kind of the way I took 2.0 and kind of went about it.
Awesome.
Something I'd like to start up here, something we used to do in Lincoln and Chatsworth, remember police camp. And the great Karen Cates ran that, and we would actually go out to Platte River State Park and do a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing now, Tommy and Ishmael, Stanford, all the, the outings, and these were generally at-risk kids that wouldn't have a chance to do this stuff. And from that, like we talked about recruiting before, we weren't trying to then, but we got a couple of guys that otherwise wouldn't have been police officers in Omaha and Lincoln now. And so that's a good thing, but I understand it's insurance, a lot of money and a lot of planning, but folks went out there shooting a bow and arrow and boating and fishing and riding horses and stuff that most kids don't get a chance to do. So
yeah, we stayed at that camp for about 5 days.
Yeah, and that was we were all volunteer. Yeah.
Awesome. We also have the Explorers program too. Were you going to say something, Chili?
No, I'm done. I've said enough.
Yeah. Just another side note is some of the other things that we do here at LPD is the Lpd Explorers, which is basically like a mini police academy for students 14 to 20 years old. They meet twice a month. And they go over kind of the scenarios and the laws and ways, learn how police respond to different things, whether it's traffic stops, building searches, radar, domestics. It's basically a police academy for students, and it's free of charge. Anyone can come to that. This year, due to COVID, we weren't able to have the LPD Job Shadow Day, but that's something that we have also for students. It kind of gives them it gives them credit for their take charge class that they have to have in high school, and they come to the police department. We have a member from SWAT, NARCs, gangs, kind of show them like the police recruiting videos. They are able to ask any questions. We have members from the CSI team that has demonstrations set up for them to learn and have some hands-on experience also. And we do that with high school and college. So it's basically a 4-hour day. They come here, they get a tour of the police department, look at the police vehicles, all kinds of different things that they can do here. But that's another way for them to be able to ask questions and a little bit more of a formal setting, and they also get class credit for that too, for attending that. Also with, well, of course, our school resource officers, we got to make sure that we recognize them also, because they do a lot within the schools as well, with different programs that they have, whether it's police club. I know for a while we had like the Y Try, and just them doing just their day-to-day duties of SROs, being the resources for the students and for staff and parents and the communities around the schools as well, of the things that they are able to do there and building those relationships with the students as well. Let's see, there was something else I was going to mention. Our cops and bobbers, that gives students a chance. That's another fishing thing with, if they go fishing with the police. We have our Santa Cop, our Shop with a Cop, where we actually go shopping with students who have been selected from different schools who may not be able to afford to go Christmas shopping. And so we take them, we basically have Target for a couple hours in the morning one day, and police officers volunteer their time, go out and actually take the students Christmas shopping. We get their presents are wrapped there, and they leave with their presents, so that way they can go take them to their families. And so those are other community things that we're able to do. I mean, it's a little bit smaller amount of time that we're with them, but it's still another positive impact that we can have with the students. And that's something that they may have not had an opportunity to, for one, go Christmas shopping or holiday shopping for their family, let alone with the police officer, to have that impact. So it's just a couple other things.
And I think just as important as a lot of cops that go out and do this, shop with the cop and all, that's the first time they've done that too.
Exactly.
Interacting in a non-enforcement action, which is important.
Definitely.
That reminded me also, Chastity, one thing we do with our 50 Fun Club every Christmas season, we take them to a local grocery store and we divide them into groups, and we give them each a budget, and they have to go and buy $200 and some worth of groceries. And so they're on a budget, and they want to buy the things that we're going to donate to the food bank afterwards. So it gives them the learning skills of shopping for groceries and things that people are going to need that are actually cooking for their families, but they have to come in within, just under the budget. So they have to keep track, and they work as a team. But then at the end of the shopping experience, then we go and deliver all of the food to the food bank. And we've done that every Christmas since we've started our program.
That's awesome. Wow. Awesome. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Amber's looking.
Okay. Not seeing any yet.
I did admit it. I was reminded to talk to, we had also included, when we do our police club stuff, we try to include every type of police agency there is. Because my agency's not that big, so we have state patrol, game and parks, and a lot of different kinds of cops out there that kids may interact with. So, and once again, meet them in a fun setting, and your future encounters might be better, both for the police officer and the community. So.
And even just explaining to the kids the different jurisdictions between the police and the sheriffs and the state patrol and everybody else, that's a conversation that always comes up when we're in our groups, and they're just asking questions about, what does this agency do and what does this agency do? So there's a lot of learning opportunities every time we get together, and a lot of it is about policing, and that's what Chilton's group does. We do just annually, we'll have like an open house at our office where we bring the kids in and we'll feed them, but then we show them the different things, the different whole areas of our agency and the different divisions that we have, whether it's court security or patrol or investigations with the crime scene stuff. We'll do a canine demo. We'll show them all of our SWAT toys that everybody loves, and that seems to be one of the things the kids really look forward to. But we don't focus on that. We've never really used this as a recruiting tool, and I don't know that we ever will. Really, we want to make this more of an experience where they just get to know us, and there's no pressure whatsoever whether they want to understand or become one of us. Say, if you want to, great, but if you don't, we understand. Talking earlier about how the kids are intimidated by police, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in North Platte, and I was intimidated by police officers, and we didn't have any opportunity when I was young, other than maybe an occasional traffic stop with my dad speeding or something. We didn't have cops at our house, and so I understand the intimidation factor or not wanting to approach cops. So it was a really new experience for me to go meet with children who they're the ones who, they did have those bad experiences with police in their homes growing up. And, I can definitely, where I can't understand it, I totally empathize with these children because there's a lot of negativity that goes along with that when your parents are getting arrested or, all those things that are negative with policing. So we're hoping that our groups will help bridge that gap a little bit just by opening the conversations and building some relationships.
Sorry, I'm muted. I know the stuff that we do, set up these meetings and so on and activities for kids and try to go out and meet them. There's also a large number of cruiser cops that will stop and buy $5 worth of lemonade that they're not going to drink because it's so sweet. But, or the cookies at the cookie stand, or just get out and play a little pickup game of basketball on the street hoop. There's a lot of guys that do that stuff all the time, and they don't, without any fanfare. And that's really important too. Get out of your cruiser, walk around, get to know people.
Chastity, you have a question. Have you found that when all of you interact with at-risk youth of all ages, they end up having more interest in going into law enforcement?
You're muted.
I don't really know. I don't try to push the profession on anyone. I appreciate them asking the questions. I think it's important for them to ask just for better understanding. But as far as like encouraging them, and because that's not what we're there for. Like Tommy said, we just want them to have a good time with us. The door is always open for us. If they have questions or once they get into high school or once they get into college. I've had students that I had in middle school and high school contact me to ask me questions now that they are adults or in college of the hiring process and what they, if they have any questions about the job. So that's, that there's a student that I had, she works right next door at probation. And we visited several times when she was in high school about law enforcement. And so, we built that relationship and got her phone number in my cell phone. She's welcome to call me anytime. So that's a positive out of it. So again, they know that if they have any questions for us, we're a resource for them, and whatever it is, whether it's being police, whether it's also one thing that I like to stress to them as well is how they're living their life now. It can follow you, and eventually you're going to have to ask for references. You're going to have to provide references to an employer, and I would love to be their reference, but you have to make sure that that you're doing the right things in your life for me to be able to vouch for you, right? That's something that we have to do as police officers. You have to go through an extensive background investigation. And so when we are providing our references for the staff to go through to do our background checks, what are they going to say about you? And so when you're coming out of high school and college, to the working field, your most immediate contacts that you're going to have are mostly teachers, or if you worked at a Dairy Queen or somewhere as a high school student. So what are they going to say about you? You want to be able to build your reputation, so you have somebody that you can call and say, hey, can I use you for a reference? And they're happy to do that, and they can give really good reviews about you. So I've been called to, asked to do job references for students, and I'm happy to do that. It makes it easy. And that's from the relationships built through community policing and working with kids in the community. So I did one for Marines just about a month ago. So I'm all for that.
Do you talk to youth about what they put on social media and how it could impact their future?
Question that Amber received is, do you talk to youth about social media and how what you put on there can have an impact on your future?
That was for me?
That's for everybody.
Oh, definitely. Because again, with our jobs, if anyone's applying to be a police officer, we require them to release what social media that they visit. And also, with that, if we're asking someone, how often do they drink alcohol? And they say once a month, but we check their social media and they've got the red Solo cup up every other day or on every weekend. And, for 5 hours out of the day, that's totally different than what you told us. And so the importance of once whether it's just habits or behaviors that you're doing, whether it's bullying, whether you're drinking, using drugs, once you put that picture out there, it's out, and it's really hard to take that back once it goes out to the World Wide Web. Anyone can screenshot that, anyone can hold on to that, and it can be used against you. And also, again, the reputation, as far as how do you want, would you want someone to do that to you, right? But you want to be very careful. And I think that, fortunately, people's social media for law enforcement, has bit them as far as us getting evidence, because they post so many things on social media that it makes it easy for us to do our job. When we just go back and look at what they posted, it's already there. There's a lot of cases that are solved just from people's social media. And so also with whether it's bullying or sexting, all of those types of things, the importance of what not to put out there and how to protect themselves from sex trafficking, those people who are out there for the wrong reason, so that way they can protect themselves. And having those presentations with parents as well, so that way they are aware of how to monitor their kids' cell phones and their social media, because we know that's how it all starts, is with predators getting a hold of them through social media, and it just goes downhill from there. So yeah, we definitely stress that with social media.
Here's another question from a police officer in Ashland, is to all of you. What age did you start your youth programs, elementary or middle school?
For me and Ishmael, our Take Pause program and 2.0 are for ages 13 through 18.
Yeah, that's pretty universal. The age is middle school and up.
And I started in kindergarten all the way through. It's a lot less people, which would be very difficult for Chastity to have every elementary, middle, and high school.
Yeah, with the Explorers, again, that's for 14 to 20, and then just other things, well, with Take Pause, it's the 13 to 18 years old.
Here's just for my FYI, someone asks, then social media does not fall under any privacy laws, ? And I don't think so. So I think it's, you put it out to the public and I can see it. I think it's public domain.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that would be private that we would have information about, we would require a subpoena or search warrant or something like that to get into the private stuff. So it would fall under some protection of the law, but you'd be surprised at what things people will just make public. And like Chastity said, I've had those questions asked to me in our youth groups, not just social media, but the drug and alcohol and the guns. And hey, do you know this kid that got arrested for this? Is that true? And they'd ask you all kinds of stuff, and it gives you an insight into what is going on in the community, and it gives us that educational opportunity for each individual child that's asking these questions. We can tell them exactly what's good and bad, and once we give them the information, it's up to them to make the proper choice. But we do a lot of that one-on-one time with these kids in these groups, and I've had a lot of questions that just scare the heck out of me from kids 13 to 15 years old that doing things that they shouldn't even be thinking about doing at that age.
More questions, Amber?
No.
Looks like she's out of questions. Anyway, you guys keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like we all want the same thing, and Stanford, and Ishmael, and Tommy, and Chastity. And as the kind of work we're doing, I realized when I started this, we might not see any results for 10 years. We might be long retired before we see and I know the work we're doing is important. So I know we're going to see a difference.
It is really important work. One of the questions we had early on was, how are we going to measure our success? And I don't know that we've come up with a good, solid way to measure it, other than the kids that leave our program. If I don't see them again, we've succeeded, because they're the ones involved in juvenile justice. And so that's really the only measuring tool I have, but it's not very empirical, and I can't write a paper on it. We just kind of got to keep going and hope that our faith is going to get us through, that we're doing the right thing.
Are you all associated with
No, I'm sorry. We have a question here it says, are you all associated with LPD? And no, Stanford's with Malone Center. Tommy's with, I'm sorry.
So
Correct me.
at the Malone Center, the Malone Center's Take Pause, we partner with LPD officers.
Okay.
So there's the ones who join us. And then at Cedars, I actually be the one working with Tommy this year on the 5-0 club. And so with that, it's LSO officers, right? It's the sheriff department.
Yeah, just LSO.
Yep, that's what I thought.
And you are Saunders County?
Yes.
In Ceresco?
Yeah. And as for me, I'm work in Saunders County and Ceresco, the Ceresco Police Club, and Saunders County, which has several small communities. But no, we're all paid by somebody different. And
but Chili, you were LPD. So are you just kind of dishonest already? I mean, I'm hurting my heart.
No, and at heart still am. They make me wear this brown shirt now.
How many years here with LPD?
Just about 19, and the 32 altogether. But had the honor of working with Chastity for the beginning of her career, and then here and there towards the end of my career.
Right.
And yeah, we're all from different places, paid by different guys, after the same thing.
And we greatly appreciate the work you guys do, even though, it doesn't always get shown, or you guys might not get to hear it a lot. We do appreciate you guys and the work you do in the community.
And we thank you, because without you, we couldn't do what we do with the youth, with you all. So, I mean, that's what people need to understand. This is a model of how it works. And if we have more people doing this, for it to grow, I mean, there's 4 of us here that are doing that, and I've never gotten any bad feedback from it, and we still have kids coming and having a good time, and it's not just to benefit the kids, but it's to benefit for us as well, because as police, it's good for us to have that humility and be able to answer the questions that might be hard, but we're all for the same mission and being able to work and grow together. And for them to understand and appreciate that, you know, that we're speaking from the heart, and let them speak from the heart. And some things we have experienced the same and some we haven't, but we can learn together and how we can do things better, and they can learn how they can do things better. That's all what it's all about. So what is this? I can tell you.
You got a question?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
The kids like you, Chili.
So obviously they aren't my kids. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, and that's not why we do any of it, but anyway. I guess Amber says we can close it. Any closing statements? I'm just gonna tell you guys, keep doing what you're doing, and maybe we'll make a little bit of a difference.
That's right. Thank you. Good job, guys.
Yeah, nice seeing you all.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.